All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today we have Christian Evans on the show, who is a seven-figure entrepreneur, and we're gonna get to hear a little bit about him, his journey, and his dreams and goals going forward. So, Christian, how you doing?
Wonderful, man. Hey, Timothy, I really appreciate you allowing me to be on. I'm very excited, and this is going to be some good stuff, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm excited to have you on, and we like to jump right in. So, if you could start by telling us a little bit about yourself and some of the stuff you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things I always enjoy, obviously I enjoy business, but also I enjoy really kind of, self-improving on a consistent basis, reading books, consuming content, learning, being around other people that are other entrepreneurs. One of the things that I was actually learning the other day is, implementing a time in my schedule of just fun, creative things to do. So like, for example, right now I'm at a marina and my dad and I are sailing. So we got our boat down here at South Carolina and we're just going out sailing on the sound and having some fun and we're learning that and to be totally off the reserve. So that's kind of some things I really enjoy doing outside of business and being able to enhance my creativity a little bit and have some fun with that. So this is actually one of my dad's dreams, and so we're actually living out the dream. So I think this corresponds very well with your podcast. So this is awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's epic. And that is the whole goal, either to get people to the point where they're living the dream or hear about people who are in the kind of action of living the dream. So kudos to you. And thanks for coming on to share how you did it with us. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, definitely. So what I do is it's been a long journey. So obviously, I struggle with pornography as well as was prosecuted for 6 felonies, did stupid stuff. We can dive into that if you want. But the thing is learning from those experiences. Obviously developing disciplines. I'm a faith-based kind of guy, and I prayed and meditated on the Word, and I realized, okay, there's something that I'm learning from this process. And so now that I'm in this situation, I've been able to take certain habits, disciplines, and things and strategies, and learn from that to now build 2 7-figure businesses. And it's actually been very, very fun, very exciting. It has been a long journey and crazy. What I basically do is I teach people how to build online businesses. So we do a done for you platform kind of thing. It's high ticket. It's pretty pricey, but at the end of the day, it's a great investment because obviously, you're making 4, 5, 6 x on your return. But anyways, that's kind of what I do. I help people say, hey, you know what? How do you leverage these systems in today's world? Right? You can't rely on a job all the time, and how can you, develop certain systems and processes and make money online? And what I realize is, I basically come in there and do it for you, so you don't have to go out there and worry about. I look at it like this. You could be a plumber, you could learn some stuff on YouTube and stuff like that to fix your plumbing, but or you could hire a plumber to come in here and fix your plumbing, and you can go watch golf, right? Which would you rather do? Well, I'd rather hire a plumber, and so that's what we do. I basically say I'm a glorified plumber, and I come in, I basically fix something, I build a business for you. So obviously you're self-sustaining. I take some of the profits, you keep most of the profits, and that allows to have a win-win situation. So, and because of that, I've been able to, just like I said, being able to, take my dad on a nice sailboat and have some fun and be able to enjoy life a little bit and, take our life to the next level. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So.
Yeah, I love that. And now we're going to jump into a little bit about your motivation, and please incorporate the struggle with pornography and convicted for 6 felonies and how that kind of ties into your story.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things is the motivation behind things is like, having total freedom, right? We all want freedom, but what I find so interesting is in businesses, specifically in entrepreneurs, we go, and we almost sacrifice our wife and our kids for this freedom, right? And the whole goal is to become free so we can spend more time with our wife and kids. And so it's this back and forth, and it's this frustration, right? And your business starts eating yourself. And so what we want to do is really implement systems, automation, so that that works for you. And believe it or not, what I find so interesting in today's world is there's a lot of people that are okay with making extra $75,000, $100,000. Like, you don't need to make $20,000, $30,000 a month, right? If you live below your means, have freedom of time. And I always tell people I would rather make $300,000 a year, live below my means, and have freedom of time, and then make $600,000, be a doctor at a hospital, be chained to that hospital, right? And that's just the way I think about it, because it's like, you know what, I have that freedom now, and I can do other things. And so one of the things I've learned from being addicted to pornography, as well as those felonies, or being prosecuted for that. It's all been expunged. But the whole point is learning disciplines, right? So specifically with like pornography, for example, right? It doesn't just happen, right? You know intentionally what happens, but what happens is something that Tony Robbins talked about. It's like a CD that you just press play and it starts running. It's a habit that is so ingrained that you just play it and you get into this. There's certain temptations and stuff. So one of the things that I've learned tremendously is like I have to be radical with my thinking. So for example, I do not watch any, like I could not watch Game of Thrones because of the sex content. And it's actually a trigger for me. So what that did was allowed me not to watch that. And I had to have the discipline to not even watch it. So what I always think, some people think it's weird, but I cannot watch any of that. I have to scroll through it, or I don't ever watch it at all. And I look at it as, yeah, it may be radical, but that's just how my brain works, and I cannot even it cannot even be in that. What I've realized as well is like you don't just all of a sudden have an affair with a woman, right? It all starts with being flirtatious at the coffee shop at work, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. And all of a sudden that little bit goes a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and then all of a sudden you become, you're in the bed with a woman, and all of a sudden you're like, well, now I can't say no, right? And so you don't want to say no when you're in that temptation. You want to be saying no and putting boundaries in. So that's what I've realized. So coming back into the business structure, I've been able to put certain boundaries and systems in place so that I'm not in that situation. So for example, it's something that I do all the time. I don't look at a woman and I just stare at her. Oh yeah, because that's not good for her and that's not good for me. So I have a 3-second rule. This is something I learned from some other individuals, and I look at someone for 3 seconds and I move on. Even when I'm talking to a woman, maybe in part of my business or a salesperson or something like that, I never say, "Wow, you're looking beautiful tonight." No, I say I talk about her characters. Hey, wow, you got a hard work ethic. You're ambitious. You're motivated. I love it. You're a dreamer. So you're very cognizant on what you're saying as well. It's not like, oh, that looks sexy on you. Hey, and you tease that, because what I realize is that you have to be very intentional with your words, with the way you think, with what's going in your mind, because all that is very, very effective. And so again, you have to be intentional, but also have to be purposeful. And so that's part of my struggles. And then also one of the things I've realized is, being prosecuted for several felonies, right? Obviously I was able to expunge all that, but the thing is learning from that experience and saying, okay, well, what did I learn from it? Well, one of the things I learned was I misused people's information in the wrong way. Okay. And they trusted me with it, and then all of a sudden I used it for my own purpose and my own benefit. And so obviously there are certain things that happen legally. And so now what I do, so I'm not even in that situation. I go ahead and send them an invoice. So I'm not even getting their credit card, their bank information, anything like that. I have no access to it. In fact, I have an executive assistant that deals with all that. So then she is the one that's responsible, high integrous person. So I'm not even in that temptation situation. And so again, that's helped build incredible credibility, but also build systems and processes in place. So one of the biggest things that I always tell people throughout this whole process is, learning from it, right? And then implementing certain things, so then you can alleviate or delegate responsibility, so you can focus on the things that are more important. So I focus a lot of my time on podcasting and marketing and things that I enjoy now, instead of sitting there and going, oh wow, things that take up my time, but also that are temptations and stuff like that. So you set up these boundaries, and the more you're able to stop and say, okay, you know what, maybe what am I not good at, right? Maybe they may be working out, like that the simple task. Well, it's a very weird thing, because sometimes you have to go to sleep and say, okay, I'm going to intentionally, and you visualize it, I'm going to intentionally wake up and I'm going to go work out. Like we've all heard that, but it's about doing it, right? It's about taking something into action, making it a consistent habit. And then what happens, and this is what's so fun, is that habit becomes so consistent that you don't even have to think about it. Now all of a sudden you wake up and you work out without even having to be a struggle internally and say, should I work out today? I'm kind of tired. It's kind of cold outside, all this stuff, right? It's this fight back and forth. And so what you have to do on a consistent basis, you just go, boom, no, I'm not doing this. So also one of the things is I learned about my personality is, at the beginning in the morning, the temptation tends to be higher. That's okay, because now what happens is I don't even have my phone for the first 30, 45 minutes. Why? Because I know that's a temptation. I don't even, because see, the thing is I knew the phone was a temptation. So instead of having the phone and saying, you know what, I have enough willpower to say no. No, I don't. I eliminate that whole thing totally. So I don't even have to even include my willpower. Does that make sense? So now all of a sudden that choice is off the table and you've eliminated it totally. And so that's what I think sometimes people need to do, definitely even in business, is you need to eliminate certain choices. It's it's called decision fatigue, right? We make so many decisions all the time. What should we wear? What should we do? What should we eat? What should we do? Where should we go? And the thing is your brain fatigues. So simplify your process as much as possible. So again, it's like, let's say, for example, you're going on car travel, right? Well, guess what? There are certain things you need to do before you go, to Florida, right? And go to Disney World. And the reason why is, well, you got to make sure you have, roadside assistance. You need to make sure you have your oil change. You need to make sure all your tires are good. You need to make sure you have a tire, a tire, exchange or whatever, right? Because the reason why is because guess what? You don't want to be down there in the middle of the road on I-70 and realize, oh crap, I don't have any of this stuff. I'm not prepared, right? And that's what happens with a lot of us, even in business. Today's world, cash flow, that's the biggest thing right now. So people, businesses, if you are running your business and you are hoping for sales to pay off your debts, then that's not a business, guys. That is not a business at all. If you're sitting there going, oh man, this week I have $4,000 that's due and I have to pay my salespeople and pay my other people and all this stuff, and I need basically $7,000 to keep the ad spending, then right there that shows to you, hey, that's not a business. You need to have profits first kind of business, which basically means when you bring in an income right at the beginning, you need to put a portion of that off for profits. Boom. And that's for a rainy day. You need to have 10, 15, 20, 70, 100, $200,000 just sitting there. Check this out. And what I find so interesting in business is you think, once I get $1 million, then I will give 10 million, then I'll give $10,000. But you have to understand that as a business owner and as a person in general, it starts with the $100 war. And what I mean by this is if you take $100 and spend all $100, well, guess what? You lost that. You lost that war. So if you can't even win the war of $100, like you have to take $100, take $20, put it into emergency. Boom, that's it. I'm not even using that. $20 over here. $10 pays me. Wonderful. The rest I can do something with it, right? Go out and have some fun, enjoy life, right? And the thing is some people think that's weird, but I'll tell you this: if you want to make $1 million, if you want to make $10 million, you never will if you can't achieve the $100 war. Period. Like you just won't. You won't ever graduate to the $1,000. Okay, wonderful. Now you graduated to $10,000. Now you graduated because it's the same game, but just different numbers. So if it's the same thing, hey, if I have $1 million and I take 20%, okay, that's 200,000, right? It's the same concept. It's the same number structure. It's just larger numbers. So if you cannot overcome the $100 war and you lose that day in and day out, day in and day out, and the reason why I bring it down to that something simple is because, see, we all, and I'm telling you, because this is how my brain works. We all want to be, okay, I'm going to have $100,000, then I will donate. Then I will pay off that debt. Then I will, no, guys, just stick with $100 and then graduate from there. Give me $1,000. Okay, wonderful. Then I'm graduate from there. And you have that consistency. See, and you start realizing, okay, now all of a sudden, now I have $1 billion. Okay, wonderful. 20% of that, that's 200 million bucks. Wonderful. Now it's the same structure, right? Just different numbers. And so and so you think about like Bill Gates and Microsoft, they have about 12 months of business expense just sitting there, cash, just sitting there. So that's $1 billion, several $1 billion business, and they got billions upon billions of dollars sitting there, and we don't even have several $100,000, right? So again, my point is it's discipline and implemented. One of my strategies from my just knowing myself is if I have money sitting there, like, and I just want people to understand this because this is what I struggle with. Like, if I have $10,000 in a credit limit, guess what? On my credit card, boom, I'm going to spend $9,999. Why? Because that's just how my brain works. So what I do is I make sure I put it in systems so that I'm not spending all that. I'm not using all that. I don't see all that, right? So I have now. Everybody's different, but sometimes you just have to start small. So I have executive assistants that hold my money, so I can't use all of it. They only give me a certain amount, and it's not that I need that. It's just that well, I put in systems and implementations and habits and automate that so that I don't have to think about it. I don't have to think intentionally in the willpower of, oh, I have $100,000 sitting there. Man, I want to use $100,000 to buy a new boat, right? No, I shouldn't be doing that, because guess what? I have $100,000. I need to have that same discipline, 20%, 10%, 30%, whatever, right? So hopefully that answered that, and explained how I was able to leverage some of those consistencies, because that's the biggest thing, is it helped me understand my habits, my situation. It really allowed me to reflect internally. And so, okay, in order to overcome addiction, right, you have to put in systems and habits. And again, prayer and meditation and God's power and stuff like that tremendously helped. But just on the external things, the things that I could control, that's what I was able to implement, and that flooded over into my business structure as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so tell us a little bit about kind of how you start putting in those systems and how you keep yourself from the self-sabotage piece of like, oh, so the system's been up for 2 weeks. I've been doing good, but now I'm just going to throw it out the window because I kind of want to go back to how I was.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I really appreciate that, because, automation is the biggest thing, right? So leveraging systems that work. So, like for example, we have a bank account that comes in here, so I don't even have to do it, and nor does one of my people have to do it. So number one is automation. Okay, so you come over here, have the money come and flooded in. The bank automatically, they have three buckets in the bank account. Wonderful. Boom, 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 boom. It automates it. So you got $10,000 coming in. Boom, it automates it accordingly, which is beautiful. And so that's just part of the bank structure, and that allows me to automate it and have that decision made for me. It's the same thing. What I always look at is like automating your bills. Okay, you don't want to be late, so guess what? You just automate it. Boom. Now you don't have to worry about it. You just have make sure you have enough money in the bank account, right? Like that's just automation. Same thing with um, building those systems and processes in place, making sure, okay, hey, you know what, and then also have an accountability coach. That's what I've realized. Now I'm pretty motivated and ambitious and have big dreams and goals anyways, but you work yourself backwards. One of the things I've realized is, things that I take for grain, take like foot stop, if you will, is the saying, the quote, I don't know who came up with it, but you will always overestimate what you can do in 1 year, but underestimate what you can do in 10 years. And why that's so important is because, let's be honest, January 1st comes around, we have six-pack goals, we want to do this. March, all of a sudden nothing happens, right? If you're able to, first of all, come to this understanding that you're not going to be wealthy tomorrow, if you can get that one understanding, everything becomes so much easier. And the reason why is because, yes, you all want to get out of your job now. You all want to get out of job yesterday, right? You all want to have $100,000 now, right? I get how people work. But if you're able to work your way backwards and say, okay, well, I know that I'm not going to get a six pack tomorrow. I've been eating for 10 years. There are certain habits, there are certain things that I've been doing that I need to change. And it's not going to happen tomorrow. Just focus on one thing. So let's say, for example, you got to work out. Okay, wonderful. I go to the gym, but then also what else do? I deduct potato chips from all my house. I don't have any potato chips, right? Wonderful. It's not a cold turkey. Sometimes people think cold turkey is the best. Some people work that way. That's fantastic. But the majority of people that I've mentored and educated and stuff like that, what I've realized is focusing on one thing simplifies the process in my head and people's heads, and then allows people to focus on that one thing. Like that's controllable, right? It's something you can control. If you focus on 100 things, you're just going to get over, again, decision fatigue. You're going to get exhausted. You're going to get bumped out. You're going to get, disappointed, and then you're going to fall back into your ways, which is worse, right? But people are comfortable with where they're at. Does that make sense? And so that's what I've realized is saying, okay, you know what? Focus on that one thing. So that's why I tell people it's like the $100 war. Well, $100, because most of us have had $100 at some point in our life, but a lot of people have never had 900,000, right? So the thing is hey, focus on that $100, and then be disciplined with that $100, because then all of a sudden, boom, you got your win in today. You got your win. You're like, okay, I did it. Wonderful. And so that's one of the things I looked at, like, struggling with pornography. I didn't look at how long have I been sobriety, because actually that was almost more stressful, right? Because it's like, oh my gosh, I've been sobriety for 9 months, and oh man, this is a lot of stress, because if I do something wrong one more time, boom, all that 9 months is gone, right? But then I realized that if I just focus on today, if I focus on this moment, if I focus on right now, then that's what I can't control. I can't focus on the future. I can't focus on the past, because then that actually alleviated some pain. I said, okay, you know what? One of the things I always love, when one guy said, he said, if you miss one day of working out, if you miss one day of spending $100 or whatever it may be, That's okay. Just don't miss two. And that's really what it comes down to, right? And saying, hey, if you miss one, whatever that may be, if you're reading, if you're if you're going to say, okay, what I'm going to do 30 minutes of self-improvement every single day, whatever it may be, hey, that's okay if you miss one. Like, have some flexible rules. It's okay if you eat potato chips. It's okay. Just don't do it twice. Does that make sense? And then restructure it, redo it again, and then get back up on the horse. So that's really what I would say to everybody that I work with. Just focusing on one thing, working your way backwards, and saying, okay, number one is like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be wealthy. You're not going to be six pack tomorrow. Acknowledge it, embrace it, understand it. Wonderful. Once you get that, boom. Now all of a sudden, okay, my 10-year goal, 5-year goal. Okay, I want to have $100,000 in assets. I want to have $400,000 in assets. I want to have, and I always say money because it's more relevant. Sometimes it's easier to calculate, but obviously same thing with working out or anything like that, right? In fact, it's actually very interesting. You look at The Rock, for example. If you look at some of his most recent movies, he's huge, he's massive, he's big. But if you actually look at his older movies, he's this really skinny guy still. He's big, but he's still relatively skinny. And so it's really interesting because if you notice, just watch his transfiguration of how he's doing things. It gives you a hope because it's not like he was built massive and big like that. He worked on it, and we understand that. But we all want the rules to be different for us. We want to be six pack now. But if you, first of all, embrace the reality and the truth that it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to be a billionaire tomorrow. It doesn't mean that you're never going to be a millionaire. It just means that you're not going to be a millionaire tomorrow. And so you implement systems and processes. And like I said, focusing on those few strategic things every single day and saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to control today. If I lost the war yesterday, that's okay. I'm going to control it today, and I'm going to control it tomorrow, and so forth and so on. Does that make sense?
It does. Makes a lot of sense.
Right on.
Appreciate that. Well, awesome, man. Now we're going to jump into your dreams and goals. So tell us a little bit about your vision for your life and your companies going forward.
Yeah, definitely. So I always enjoy this because, first of all, I think really, really big. And one of the things is, Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter. But one of the things I always enjoy what he said is like, if you're going to think, you might as well think big, right? And I just took that with full veracity because I thought, well, shoot, you might as well, right? And so he said, you know what, I could sit there and do multifamilies or real estate or something like that at a low level, or I could just think, hey, you know what, I'm going to buy this big building and rock and roll, right? It's the same game, but at different levels. And in fact, one of the things that I really, really want to kind of foot stomp a little bit, if you go to Zillow, and this is a really good example, if you go to Zillow and you look at all the houses, if you look at the mid-size range houses, they're the ones that are right now, they're under contract, they're pending, their stuff. Like, people are buying those all the time. But if you scroll up all the way to the really, really high net worth ones, 4, 5, 6, 7, $10 million, and that may be personal real estate, that may be actually just larger commercial real estate, whatever it is. If you look at that stuff, there's not a lot of pending contracts. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because when you get above the crowd, it actually becomes less competitive. It becomes, because there's just not as many people up there, and so it becomes better opportunities. So one of the things I always tell people, I've got a sales guy, and he makes a lot of money with us and stuff like that. But I'm telling him, hey, you need to live below your means, bud. You're making $30,000, but you're spending $30,000 a month, right? So you're making $30,000 a month, but you're spending $30,000 a month. You need to figure out a situation where you don't need to be living that life anymore. You're not impressing anybody. It's okay. Bring it down. Would you rather have $400,000 in your checking account and your assets and things paying you on a consistent basis, and or live in a big mansion? It's okay, right? You can bring that down. It's all right. Nobody's going to judge you, right? It's okay. And the thing is now I also think that you can have both if you're smart with it. Now, one of the things I look at in life is making sure that you have assets. So anybody, and let me think, people look at linear as, okay, hey, I sell something, I sell a t-shirt and I make money. Wonderful. Okay, so cool. But then you got to make sure, how do I create a passive income? Passive income is where it becomes revolutionary. It becomes exponential, actually, because yes, you buy one house and it's only $250. That's $250. You never have to work for it ever again. It just keeps coming in. Boom, 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 right? And then you add another house, and you add another house, and you add another house, and you add another house, or whatever it may be. Boom, all of a sudden, and then that's 250 net cash outside of taxes and property and everything like that. So anyway, so coming back down to it, I look at building those assets. So right now, to answer your question, I look at right now, we want to be pushing scaling roughly to 50 to 100 million dollars in revenue. And also what I want to do is I want to build about 1,000 single family units, just because they're low cost, low expense, and low upkeep. Because you a lot of times about 1,000 family units of real estate, and have roughly about 40, $50,000 in passive income coming in on a consistent basis. I'm 28 years old. Am I going to do that tomorrow? No, of course not. But am I going to put certain systems, implementations in? Yes, 100%. Also, one of the things I really want to share with your audience more than anything else. So, a really cool story that happened several years ago. We had almost $60,000 held up. Now, a lot of that, some people may say that was a lot of money. Some people say that wasn't that much money. Regardless, at that time in our business, it was a lot of money to us. We needed that money to keep the ads going. We needed that money to be able to spend and pay people off, because at that point in my business structure, we were spending a lot of money, but we needed to bring in some of that revenue on a consistent basis. So when 60,000 was all of a sudden held up by the banks, it was like, well, we need that to keep everything going, right? So because I was maxed out with credit card and loans and everything like that, right? And this was several years ago, and it was frustrating to me. And so one of the things I learned from that, very simply, is of course having the rainy day fund. So making sure you're never in that situation again. But also one of the things that I learned is you need to have other income streams on a consistent basis. You need to have referrals. You need to have income that are coming in from different ways. And so that's why we're very strategic right now in taking some of this, excuse me, developing skills that you've acquired. And this is something that I love about America, is that um, you could have the government take your money. You could have the government take your resources, right? You could have your government take all your property. But if you have acquired certain skills that are intangibles, nobody can take those away from you, right? So marketing, for example, understanding how to sell people, understand how to have a conversation, how to build an offer, how to integrate this techie stuff, leveraging YouTube and Google Ads and Facebook. Um, those are intangibles that nobody will ever take away from you. And what's beautiful is, and that's one of the reasons why you see, this is what's so remarkable. One of the reasons why you see some of these people that are doing 30-day challenges, right, where they're out in the boondocks and they have to go and get a real estate deal, and they have no money, no credit, no application, no nothing, and in 30 days they have to find a first deal. Why can they do that? Well, because they've acquired skills and intangibles, right? That even if you take all my money away, I can still build it back up again. That's one of the reasons why you see when people make $1 million, $1 million is cool, but you've acquired skills and abilities that if you lose that $1 million, you're going to make that $1 million again, and in fact more, right? Because you know exactly how to do it. Okay, and so I really want people to emphasize some of the goals and dreams and ambitions. Yes, I think that big. That's fantastic. That's wonderful. But also, it's like, hey, you know what? How do we develop certain skills, right? So sailing, for example, that's a skill that I've acquired. So then, guess what? I can go in and do this, and now it becomes fun, right? And it becomes enjoyable, and I enjoy life with it. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And I love that developing those core skills and being able to build off of it. Because, a lot of people will often talk about if you put everybody at $0, a lot of people would end up right back where they are within a year, 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, because they have the habits of the person that they are right now, type of thing. And so
Yep. Yep.
I think that's a very true statement. And the next question I want to ask you is, what is the thing that caused you to take the first step towards kicking the pornography addiction, getting rid of the felonies, and building these businesses to the level that they are, and just the massive big thinking?
Yeah, definitely. So, I guess I've always thought kind of big. I've always wanted to. Always wanted to achieve things, big things. Produce stuff at a very, very high level. And one of the things is I always work my way backwards. So I think big, but then I don't do stupid things, right? So obviously I did stupid things, and I realized, okay, you know what? I need to, because this is what I realized. And I took. Some people may think this weird, but in my head, I say, Christian, you've seen a lot of people. That's why I have my podcast to talk about significance, wisdom, and actually leaving a legacy, because I see a lot of people that become very successful. They have all the money, right? They have all gained all the wealth in the world, but then they lose their soul. What I mean by that, they don't have a relationship with their kids. They don't have the relationship with their spouse. They don't have a relationship with their family, right? And so they lose that. And so at the end of the day, yes, you've gained a lot of power and resources and wealth, but you've also lost. Now, I believe that you can have both. I believe you can have resources and wealth and also have a really, really great family. But one of the things I've learned more than anything else is I had to curtail and be intentional with those pitfalls, because I knew, hey, nobody, when you're just a little peon and nobody really cares about you, you can do those things because you're not, nobody's relying on you, right? But then when all of a sudden you have a lot of people relying on you, and all of a sudden you do something stupid, you're not only affecting you anymore, you're affecting everybody else that you just touched. And you could do that in a positive way, or you could do that in a negative way. And so my decision is saying, okay, you know what? It's the same concept that, hey, um, Nelson Mandela, there's a person that came up and said, "Hey, Nelson, can you tell my kid not to eat sugar?" And he says, "Come back to me in 3 days." And the little kid came back and, "Can you tell my kid not to eat sugar?" And he says, "Don't eat sugar." And she said, "Well, why did I have to come back in 3 days?" He says, "Because at that time I was eating sugar." And it was the same concept. See, I can't tell you not to look at pornography and how devastating that is to your family, to your wife, to everybody around you if I'm doing it. Does that make sense? It carries no credibility at all. It's the same thing if I'm coming over here and stealing people's stuff. Well, then I can't tell you, hey, live integrous life, right? It carries no weight and holisticness. And so that's one of the reasons why I said, okay, Christian, I could go out there and build all this, but it's going to be in vain, because all of a sudden I do something stupid, do something, and it just, everything floods and folds. And so that's one of the reasons why intentionally, you have to internally look inside you and say, okay, you know what do I need to fix? Either my character, whether it may be my leadership. Now, some people may not have that struggle. I know some men, they just don't have struggle with pornography, and that's cool. That's awesome. I give you a lot of props. But some of you may have struggles with other things, right? Maybe it's social media, right? We're addicted to that, right? Whatever it is. So building systems and processes in place, maybe you're addicted to, gambling. Maybe you're addicted to, alcohol. Maybe you're addicted to whatever it may be. But there's tends to be pitfalls, and you have to sit there and say, okay, what are my pitfalls? Okay. And if you don't think you do, well, ask your wife, ask your spouse. I guarantee you they'll say something, right? And so that's one of the things I always tell people is, like, you got to have those real conversations with yourself, and it's a consistent journey all the time. But then also, what's allowed me to think big is, um, I think life is so short, and I know people say that, and I don't want to be the same person, whatever, like everybody else says this. But when you really grab a hold of it, you start realizing, okay, you look at Elon Musk, for example. Look at what he's been able to build, and he's only really 50 years old. That's incredible. Like, that's amazing, right? Now he's working all the time, right? He's lost his wife, he's lost, he's got his kids and stuff. But again, he's working his butt off. But he's intentional with his time when he spends his time with his kids. So there's no problem with that. But also, how much time are we wasting? And this is the thing I always tell people: if you are having conversations with your wife about what's cool on Netflix, and, oh my gosh, did you see Peter in that one thing, and that was amazing? Oh my gosh, that was so fun. Like, if you're talking about fictional characters in between your relationship with your spouse and your kids, there's something wrong with that. Okay, you have to be intentional. See, what's so beautiful is I've got some of my family, and they work at Applebee's, and that's cool. And then I got another friend of mine that his kids are building six-figure e-commerce stores. Same age, but just different structure, different intentionality. And that's one of the things that it's like, okay, guys, you will overestimate what you can do in 1 year, right? It comes back down to this. You can underestimate what you do in 10 years. Yes, you're not going to be a bajillionaire tomorrow. Yes, you're stuck in that pitfall. You're stuck in that situation, but doesn't mean that you're not able to get out of it. And now that you're able to, now that you're able to get out of it, you have the ambition, develop certain skills, marketing skills, acquiring that. Don't be lazy, guys. I see so many people that just want to sit back and just be lazy, and that's why you'll never be successful. Period. Right? And so many of us, if you can't overcome that $100 war, then you just don't have it in you, guys. If you want to spend $100, go ahead, have some fun, money. Have some fun. But don't cry to me when you're 70, 80 years old and you got to go to work at Walmart because you didn't make the proper decisions, right? It's not that complicated, guys. It's not some sort of science behind it. It's not some sort of, oh, it's luckiness. No, it's just a simple formula, and you got to be disciplined with it. You got to make intentional decisions, right? You don't just wake up all of a sudden and your kids are little buttholes and you hate spending time with them. Well, that was because you didn't raise them right, right? It's they're selfish, they're arrogant, whatever it may be. Well, you didn't raise them to be humble and to build a character, and so it's and so that's one of the things I always tell people. It's like, you guys, you have to take ownership of that, right? And I know you hear a lot of this stuff, but it's like you have to take extreme ownership of your life, and thinking big is part of it. Some people are okay with making $100,000. Cool, fantastic, enjoy your life. That's awesome. Me, not just about making a lot of money, but it's about taking those resources and then be able to impact other things that I am passionate about. So that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. If there was one type of person that you could meet right now that would help you take the next step towards, scaling your business, building those single family units and getting that passive income, who would that person be and how would they do it?
Well, since we're not at $50 million a year or $100 million a year, I would love to meet someone I've been consuming a lot of his content recently. Is and Never really got to meet him yet, but Alex Hormozy. He actually just came out with a book, $100 million offer. Have not gotten it yet. I need to get that. A friend of mine just told me about it just the other day, and so I've been consuming a lot of his interviews and stuff. And so, the way he talks and the way he presents himself, it just makes sense. One of the things I've learned over the course of many, many years is focus, right? Many entrepreneurs, and this is what I know just from my personality as well. I realize that, Bill Gates, he talks a lot about this as well. It's about focus. So most entrepreneurs, they go in here and they focus on 6 different things, right? What are you doing? Oh, I got my DJ business. I got my, sales funnel business. I got my, singing business. I got this other business. I got this other business. I'm doing crypto. So and then what you have to understand is that you may be good at all of them, but you're not going to be great, and you will definitely not be exceptional, right? And so you have to get rid of, and this is where it's tough. You have to get rid of everything else and focus on that one. And what's so beautiful, and this is something I learned from actually, gosh, what's his name? The guy that created Darren Hardy. He talks about this. He asked Donald Trump, and he asked uh, um, Dr. Oz, how does he have all these surgeries every year? Plus he's on all these magazines. Plus he's doing all these interviews. How do you do it all? He says, well, you have to understand. I come in and I don't even open up the body. The body's open. It's already prepped. It's already prepared. All I do is 1 or 2 cuts, and that's all I do. I walk in and I do 1, 2, and I'm an expert at those cuts. Expert, exceptional. Out of all the world, exceptional. Now, why is that important? Because see, what you have to realize is there are certain things you are not good at. That's okay. Most of us say, "Oh, I want to develop those strengths." Well, maybe that's not your strength. Focus on the things that are really do the best. So some people at the beginning, you have to, and this is something that I've learned, you have to stay focused on a few things. So I could go out there. The reason why I'm getting into real estate is because it doesn't take too much of my time and energy. That's okay. It doesn't take a lot of my effort and all that. In fact, I have to say no to a lot of strategic partners. See, I have skills that I could help people, and I could build out their sales funnel and start making an extra little bit of money off to the side. But guess what? That's going to relieve a lot of my focus from my main goal. Okay. And what is my main goal? Well, what I do is I come into my business. I am an expert at teaching people how to build a business, period. Right. Someone else takes the sales phone calls. My ads are running. People are scheduling phone calls. I don't do any of that. That's all automated. I don't even do the onboarding. I do the onboarding part 2, which I come in here, have a conversation, talk to them, and I don't even do the back end, development of the actual website and everything like that, and the sales funnels. All my team does that. Now I'm in a different situation, but I've realized that was my ultimate goal, and I've got to delegate other responsibility. It didn't happen overnight, right? And there's a lot of how to find the right salesperson. That took me 3 or 4 times. How to find the right people, understanding sales funnels and marketing. But then once you develop, SOPs, then all of a sudden you have these systems and processes in place, and you can delegate that responsibility. And now what do I do? Well, I come in here, the body's already open, and I just do my 1 and 2 cuts. Okay. And then what happens, and this is where it gets really fun. If you want to go from 0 to 7 figures, it's all over the place. You have to develop systems and processes. But if you want to go from 7 figures to 8 figures to 9 figures, now all it is just implementing that same system over. And it gets boring, honestly, but it's coming in here, doing those 1 and 2 cuts. Going to the next surgery, 1 and 2 cuts. Next surgery, 1 and 2 cuts. Next surgery, 1 and 2 cuts. Like the same thing over and over and over and over again. And that's how you scale from 7 to 8 to 9 figures and beyond, honestly. So that's what I would tell people, is just that focus, that energized focus. And man, there's just so much that so many people are just so diluted and not focused. And that's the reason why you're stagnant and you're not getting anywhere. If you're more focused, and then this one I'm telling people, it's like, if you know all the Grey's Anatomy characters on that show and Game of Thrones, and you don't even know the 5 principles in a book, in like Ray Dalio's book, there's nothing I can do for you guys. You're spending all your time and energy, your focus, on the wrong stupid thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Focus is essential. I guess, what tips would you have for people, where their focus, I think Grant Cardone talks about in his book, he's like, you're always taking massive action in one direction or another, and you just have to kind of redirect that massive action. Mm-hmm. Some people are like, I just don't like reading. I just don't like listening to podcasts, but I want to be better. Like, what do you say to that person?
Well, one of the things I always tell people is like, your feelings are getting in the way of your success. Okay. And what do I mean by this is like, guys, do you think, like Bill Gates, when he was building his business, do you think he liked the government coming after him and his monopoly and all that stuff? No, he didn't like that. But what was he passionate about? He was passionate about the results of what he did create. Does that make sense? And so you may not be passionate about, working out and going in there in the gym and waking up and, oh, I got to do this again. But you know what? What are you passionate about? Man, you take your shirt off at the beach and man, you look hot, you look sexy. And all those men and women, they're looking at you like, dang, man, that's awesome, man. I wish I got that. And you know what it took, right? And so it's just doing it regardless of how you feel. Like, do you think I love waking up and going at it again and dealing with the problems, dealing with it? No, of course not. But you know what? I like the result of it. I like the freedom to be able to do this. I love to, talking to people like yourself and sharing the expertise. And so your feelings are getting in the way. So it's not going to be fun. It's going to be not fun. But if you can automate it as much as you can, see, like, again, do you think it's fun not being able to spend all of $100? Yeah, it sucks. I want to spend all $100. But you know what I do is I know it's the right choice. I know that I need to, because then that graduates me to the $1,000, and then that $1,000 when I do that, wonderful, graduates me to the 10,000. Okay, wonderful. Now we're moving somewhere. Now the 10,000 goes to $1 million. Now $1 million goes into 100 million, right? And so it's the whole concept. It's like, yes, it's focused, but also it's like, hey, you know what? Your emotions. If you feel like, you wake up and there's this fight, and I know this because I think we still do this, right? Oh, I don't really want to work out today. Oh man, I'm so comfortable right now. It feels so nice. Your emotions are getting in the way, and you just have to do it regardless of what you feel like, right? You're not going to always feel like it. And I think this is where it becomes so misconceptional, because we always want to be, you got to be passionate about what you do. You got to be happy about what you do. And cool, that's some of it. But guess what? Some days you're not going to be happy about it. Some days you're not going to be passionate about it, right? You have, again, like I said a few years ago, all my money held up. Think I was passionate about that? No, it was my money. Give it to me, right? But you know what? There's not a dang thing I could do. And my emotions, it didn't help, regardless. So guess what? I had to find a solution, right? So that's what it comes down to. I would say highly that is the biggest thing. People just, their emotions get in the way. It becomes more comfortable to just go and watch, Game of Thrones, go to work, come home, Game of Thrones, do that Monday through Friday on the weekends. Okay, yay, party, have some fun, and then just do it over and over and over again. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Love that. What is the most important one or two things that everyday people can do to help you get closer and closer to your dreams and goals?
I would say one of the biggest things that has helped me tremendously is visualization. After listening to Joe Dispenza a little bit more, the power of visualization. And see, what I find very interesting is, yes, you want to kind of ignore your emotions, but also if you leverage emotions properly, it's actually very remarkable. So one of the biggest things is okay, hey, you have to visualize that future. Like, for example, I wake up and I go run and I listen to Transformers background music. And I know that sounds so stupid, but I love it because it's so empowering. It's so heroic. It's so, just it's a lot of energy. And what I do is every day when I'm running, I break the old Christian Evans and I have the new Christian David Evans, right? And I have to do that almost intentionally. And it's weird and it's maybe radical or whatever, but I have to do that because that old Christian Evans is weak, is addicted to pornography, is character flawed, right? This new Christian David Evans that I'm building every single day is he's driven, he's ambitious, he's motivated, he's a God-fearing man, he's a godly man, he's loving of people. That's who I am, right? And I'm a builder of people, I'm a builder of businesses, and that's what I do, that's who I am. And all of a sudden, guess what? That's who I become. And you have to visualize that, right? If you go in through life and it's that old concept, but it's just so relevant. If you have no point of reference of where you're going, you ain't going anywhere, guys. You have to have, and that comes to dreams, right? Putting goals down, dreams, but also visualizing. So meditation is number one for me. And then also one of the things is you have to do radical changes, right? So um, things that jolt your body. So for example, um, now, I never had a problem with my weight or anything, but I always like to talk about this because I think it's very relevant. One of my friends, he wanted to become radical, and I told him he needed a radical change. You need to do something radical because you need to jolt your body. You need to jolt something that says, hey, I'm going this way. This is what I'm doing. So if you're in a situation where, okay, you know what, you're financially struggling, whatever it is, maybe what you need to do is, okay, you know what, I'm going to radically change. I'm going to get a sales job, right? Because sales, you can make a lot of money very quickly. Okay. So you get out of debt, whatever it may be. Okay. So you're going to radically change into that section. Maybe you're like my friend where he radically changed that day. He took all the potato chips, all of that stuff, all that garbage out of his house, threw it away, made that huge moment, and then put it in the trash, and it's gone, right? So it's a radical change. Now all of a sudden, it's not in the house anymore. Now when he's bored, he can't just eat potato chips, right? So it's a radical change. And so that's what I tell people is you have to have a radical change of some sort, right? You have to figure out, okay, what would be radical? What would be such massive action that's like I'm telling my body and my ability and just getting out and doing something. And then three is taking action. Um, I know people say massive action, take action, but also what I always like to talk about is you almost get, if you take massive action, you feel good. You feel like, okay, like if you haven't worked out for a while and you go to work out, man, I felt good, man, this is awesome, wonderful. And then what happens is your body, um, or your brain or whatever it may be in that situation, it maxes out. And so then you miss a day and you miss 2 days because it's like, oh, my body hurts. And then, you miss 3 days or whatever. My point is just take some sort of action. It doesn't need to be massive, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because majority of people that I work with, I just know that that's how they structure their life. I know that if they take massive action on a consistent basis, you get overworked and it's just too much for you. Okay, whether it's reading, whether it's doing something, whatever, and you'll max out. And I've noticed it's about 2 weeks for most people. They max out, they do something consistent for 2 weeks, and then they fall off for whatever reason. So what I tell people is, hey, go to work out for 30 minutes a day. Go take $100 and take 20% away. Don't do all of it at the same time. Just put 20%. Okay, wonderful. Profits first, right? So those are the three things that I would suggest doing right away. Doing something is visualizing, figuring out who's the Christian David Evans I want to become. Who's the Timothy Douglas that I want to become? Who is that person that I want to become? Develop that and visualize that, and really whether it's Transformers background, music or some other stuff or meditation music or something, but you have to visualize that future, because if you have no idea where you're going, then you ain't got nothing. Okay. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so now we're going to jump into our thriving three. And the first question is, what's your favorite book, movie, or podcast? Pick one.
Pick one. Okay. Let me see, because I like each one is different. So let me think here. I would say one of the books that I'm reading right now is rereading is Profits First. And I think this is very important for a lot of businesses, definitely in today's world, because what happens, and this is what fatigued a lot of people and really had a massive massive slap in a lot of businesses, is you guys were so reliant on consistent income that then all of a sudden, when you didn't have consistent income coming in, everything just fell through. And you started realizing, oh gosh, we don't have enough money to withstand 6-12 months of expenses, right? So one of the books I would recommend reading for any business owner or anybody, even if it's implementing in your own personal life, is having Profits First implemented. Have a bank account. A lot of these banks can do this. You have it put it in 3 different bank accounts. Put it all into one bank, and then whenever you get paycheck, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, whatever, it's automatically adjusted. So you don't even see the 10, 15% over here. You just see this amount that's actually there, and you'll be amazed at how your brain starts just living off of that amount in that main account. And you don't even, and then all of a sudden after 10, 6, 7, 10 months, you start realizing, oh gosh, I have 40,000 over here. I have 50,000 over here, right? And so that's one of the things I would recommend. One of the books that I would recommend that would just be, I think, very, very beneficial for your audience at this point. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I listen to a lot of, watch a lot of, different, Oh, and this is also one thing I would suggest when you're watching movies, watch inspirational movies. You guys should not be watching, you have to be intentional with this, because you'll be amazed of, if you find someone that, if you're watching a love movie that's cheating on their wife, those are just little seeds that are planting in your head. You don't need to see that stuff. If you're looking at Game of Thrones, you don't need to see that stuff, honestly. And I'm not just saying it through I just know it just from my own perspective. And then also, if you're watching horror movies and war, all that stuff, it's like you just don't need to. Find inspirational movies, and you have to be radical with it. You have to be radical and just say, you know what, I choose not to. I just there's no point to it. It's not going to benefit you in the long run. If you watch inspirational movies, true stories, things like that, that's going to help you, and podcasts and stuff. But you have to be radical with it. You do. I think that's going to, and intentional. So, but yeah, Profits First would be an awesome book for your audience.
Gotcha. Love it. That's actually one that's been on my reading list that I haven't gotten around to. So
yeah, definitely get into it, man.
Awesome. So I think you talked about this a little bit already, but what's one way you like to take care of yourself?
Well, I enjoy working out, of course. Now I'm not huge. I don't do it to get big and massive. I do a lot of working out. But one of the things I really, really enjoy is, so I've been doing a lot of this. I do a lot of podcasting, but also I really enjoy doing docuseries. So what do I mean by this is, some people like to journal, and that's fine. I think that's really good. But one of the things I would suggest many of you is, when you read something, you'll be amazed at how many people have not heard it, or maybe they had a different interpretation of it. So let me explain. So when you read something, when you interpret something, when you learn something, put a video on. Now you don't have to go on Facebook Live. Just record it yourself, and you can keep it into your own documents, and you can keep it on your back end, your photo up in the cloud or anything. You don't have to share it with anybody. But what I would recommend doing is, throughout the day, when you learn something, when you listen to something, when something resonates with you, just put on your phone and just talk. Say, hey guys, this is October 27th, 28th, 2021. And one of the things I'm learning about is, Timothy Douglas. He's incredible. He's really awesome. I love what he's got going on. He's been able to impact, 1,000 upon 1,000 people. And it's just been really awesome to see that and network with him, and this and that, and just talk about one of the things I've learned. And one of the things I learned from him is he's got some really great questions, and I want to be on his podcast again. So I want to make sure I'm on this podcast, just talk. Because what's happening is that becomes a document. You're documenting your life, and you'll be amazed when you look back a year from now. Oh, wow, I remember when I was thinking that way. And then when you read Profits First again, when you read, another book again, right? you're at a different point in life and you're hitting different struggles, you're hitting different points, hopefully, because otherwise you're not growing. And that's what I would, that's what I think is very, very imperative.
Yeah, absolutely. That documenting. And I like the video aspect of it because a lot of people journal, but the video aspect
Yeah.
of documenting. What is one action step you can take right now or continue to take to keep moving towards your dreams?
These are some great questions. One of the things I would say is to take action would, I would literally, I would, this is what I would literally do. I would literally turn off Netflix. I would just get rid of Netflix, HBO. I was talking to one of my acquaintances. They had HBO, Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, and I'm thinking, what in the God's green? What are you doing, dude? What do you no wonder why you're sitting there with your finger up your butt. You know what I mean? Like, get rid of it, dude. That's what I would do. Honestly, you have to take radical. I would just totally eliminate all of it. None of it is going to be adding value to you. And it's funny because, you listen to a podcast and it's like, man, this is a long podcast. Oh my gosh. But then you watch a movie and it's an hour goes by like that. Oh, let's watch another one. Let's watch another one. Let's watch another one, And all of a sudden 3 hours in there. Guys, just listen to a podcast. Put it into 1.5 speed. Get through it. Learn it. To me, it's not that hard. It's not that difficult. So many people, they're just like, they can't get over themselves. You guys are the biggest hurdle for, there's many of you guys are very, very successful in what you do, which is awesome, right? You guys have good jobs, but you'll always be there. You'll always be there unless you have some place. And I honestly, stocks is cool. Cryptocurrency is cool, but it's all, you can't, those things you really can't control too much. So what can you control? Well, you can control your business. You can control skills that you've acquired. You control, certain services that you can provide for people, right? And scaling that. So that's one action that I would tell people is literally to feel a little bit of pain, eliminate all those right now, cancel them, and you'll be amazed at how much time you just get back. You're like, oh my gosh, I have so much time. Right. And that's one of the things that I always found so interesting. This is one of the things that I was actually talking to someone. He was in prison for 30 days. And he said, that was the best thing for my life because all the distractions were eliminated for me. And one of the things I tell people is be like prison almost. You know what I mean? Like just be like prison, because all of a sudden, if all those are distractions were eliminated, all the family events and all the things you have to go to were all eliminated. Like that decision was already made for you because now you're in prison and you can't go and you can't watch TV. Well, what are you going to do with your time? Well, I guess I'm going to read. Right. And he read and he read and he read. And over the next 30 days, he just kept reading. So that's what I would highly suggest people is just like totally get rid of that, because you'll be amazed at how much time you get back. All of a sudden you start having intentional conversation with your spouse and saying, what are your dreams, honey? You want to go to Bora Bora? How are we going to get there? Let's do this. Let's find a lifestyle that we want to live. And let's find our jobs or our opportunities or businesses and have those things revolve around our lifestyle, not the other way around. And how many times do we revolve our life around our job? Oh, I got to go to work. I got to miss this event. I got to do that because I got to go to work, right? And instead of saying, hey, you know what? I want to be on the open sea. How do I revolve my life around the open sea? And now that's a better question, because now you're sitting there going, okay, now it becomes more opportunistic, right? Then I don't want to be at one location at all times. I want to be traveling. Or maybe some of you guys just want to be having freedom with a lot of resources. Cool. How do you do that, right? What kind of lifestyle you want?
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Well, do you have anything else you want to chat about before we sign off?
Well, Timothy, I think the only thing that I would suggest with a lot of people is so there were so many tasks, right, that I mentioned, right? There were so many things that I mentioned that would be very, very important for a lot of people. And what I would say is, doing things on a daily basis, right? I always like to say the when, because if you can control that day, you can't control a year. You can't control 4 months from now. You can't control 20 years from now, right? You can't control that. And things develop so quickly. So one of the things I always tell people is get your win in today. Okay, whatever that is. Hey, I went to the gym today. Wonderful. And don't miss two. Right. Okay. I messed up yesterday. Right. Have that flexibility. It's okay. I'm not going to get down. I'm not a failure. I'm not totally failed. It's okay. But don't miss two. Right. Just keep going. Right. If I don't go to work out, that's okay. Nobody's going to sue me. It's all right. So that's one of the biggest things I would tell people. And man, Timothy, I really just appreciate you just allowing me to be on. Just love what you're doing. I love what we're talking about. And I think it's very, very important. Again, people, you don't realize how much you can do in 10 years, in 5 years. Definitely in today's world, definitely. And I mean, you got some people that are 20 years old, making $20,000-$30,000 a month, and they're living life at the next level. And because they sacrificed what they had to do then, now their life, their total family is going to be totally set up. And whether you're 21, whether 45, whether it's 60, whatever it may be, start now, start today. That's one of the things that, after my dad is 75 years old, and this has been one of his dreams for the longest time. And we're doing it finally, right? It took a lot of encouragement, a lot of, discussion, a lot of, like, let's just do it, right? But he finally said, you know what, let's make it happen. Let's do it. Let's go. And we did. So, that's one of the biggest things I would say. So Tim, I really appreciate you allowing me to be on, man. This is awesome stuff.
Yeah, of course. And Christian, thank you for coming on. If you guys were listening to this and you liked what Christian had to say, connect with him. Also, if you know Alex Hermosi is his name.
Hermosi, yep.
Hermosi, make sure to connect Christian with Alex, and let's just get those connections going, get that networking going, and get off your butt, do something, and don't ever miss 2 days in a row. Awesome. Thank you guys for listening. Christian, thank you for coming on. Send this episode to somebody who needs it. Shoot us a 5-star review on iTunes, and we're out.